Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news and notes mashup video today, starting with TREVOR BRYAN, Daniel Dubois, and an order for them to fight from the WBA. So Bryan, currently the WBA regular champion as it were, just defended his so-called title against Jonathan Gudry this past weekend. Daniel Dubois, the #1 rated contender in the top 15. And he also is the former interim title holder before they got rid of that. But you can see here on screen, so the press release from the WBA. WBA orders Bryan Dubois negotiations, saying the WBA World Boxing Association ordered the mandatory fight between TREVOR BRYAN, the heavyweight world champion, and his mandatory challenger Daniel Dubois from Great Britain. Bryan received special permission to make an optional defence last Saturday, January 29, against Jonathan Gudry. Once the bout was completed, the WBA gave a period of 180 days from the date of that defence to make the mandatory fight against Dubois. On Monday, January 31, communication was sent to both fighters' teams to begin negotiations for the bout immediately. In addition, the WBA also ordered the elimination fight between the third-ranked fighter in the division, Robert Helenius, and the number 4, Hughie Fury, who will also have 180 days as of January 29. The WBA continues to move towards the title reduction as planned, and the recent decisions are aimed at achieving the goal of a single champion. So that is the WBA statement. So Dubois and Bryan, we knew this was potential because it had been sort of signalled and mooted by the WBA, but you never know if there's going to be follow through. And still, I'm not convinced the fight's going to happen, and partly because TREVOR BRYAN's with Don King. And Bryan's only fought twice since 2018, and obviously a couple of other fights were scheduled with the likes of Mahmoud Shah. They never happened. But if it happens, it's probably more likely to occur in the United Kingdom, so issues with visas and the like, less likely, because obviously Daniel Dubois is not going to have to travel and be subject to shenanigans by the likes of King. But that's not to say that it won't happen. But I'm still a little skeptical the fight will happen. But if it does, and if it does happen within 6 months, and that's not to say it will because TREVOR BRYAN's been so inactive, I think most of us would consider that TREVOR BRYAN has no shot, that Daniel Dubois, based on the strength of this performance we've just seen from Bryan against Gudry, he looks slow, plodding, and ripe for the picking. Daniel Dubois, as a puncher, will stop the non-head-moving TREVOR BRYAN in under 3 rounds, I think. Bryan did demonstrate a good chin, but Gudry's not noted as a puncher. So if this gets made, and that's a big if, I think that Bryan is going to lose that so-called title that he holds. And it is also one of these sorts of fights where it's in the wheelhouse for Dubois at this point in his career. He's still young, still developing, still coming back after that loss to Joe Joyce, working on some things. And TREVOR BRYAN is probably top 30, top 35. He's not a guy that really is any higher than that based on the performance we just saw of this past weekend. But also interesting in that order, Robert Helenius to face Hughie Fury. Well, so ordered. That's interesting because it probably should have been Robert Helenius versus Michael Hunter, because Hunter and Helenius obviously are right next to each other in the rankings. I guess too Hughie Fury, but it made probably more sense, at least to me, looking at the rankings, and you can sort of see them here. You got Michael Hunter at 2 and Robert Helenius at 3. Why didn't they make that fight? That they were talking about a 4-man box-off for the likes of Bryan, Dubois, Hunter, and Helenius. Obviously, that's fallen apart and just not happening at all. But yeah, Hughie Fury, I guess at Sky they may have made some submissions to the WBA to get an eliminator of Hughie Fury, because they want to sort of build him and promote him on Sky. He's their #1 heavyweight at the moment. And Helenius, that's a winnable fight for Hughie Fury, but also similarly, it's a competitive fight, and Helenius certainly does have the height, the reach. He's got some decent skills and power. It's an interesting fight if it gets made. But does Robert Helenius have some issues with his promotional status? Because I believe he's still got one more fight at PBC, but we shall see. I don't mind that fight, so if it happens, it happens. Moving on, though, to the WBA rankings, you've got the only change in the latest update to the top 15 was Gudry coming out, and you've got Helenius Pero, who fought at the start of January on the Charles Martin Luis Ortiz undercard. He is number 15 here. Gudry had been at 13, so a couple of guys just slot up there. But apart from that, no change. But of that situation for a potential fight, Frank Warren's posted a graphic. You'd had Daniel Dubois the other day congratulating Trevor Bryan, but you are in my way. See you soon. And Trevor Bryan responding, indeed we will, little homie, because as I said, my campaign overseas will be starting very soon. And on his Instagram, Trevor Bryan also reposting that graphic saying hashtag won't be long at Daniel Dubois and still and a bunch of other hashtags. So if it happens, it happens, but I'm not holding my breath at the same time. Moving on, Tyson Fury, the WBC champion, has noted, like many of the rest of us, that Dillian Whyte has been very quiet on social media. In general, hasn't responded after that record-breaking purse bid for their fight, which is scheduled to take place at some point later this year.
White feathers! Coward! Where are you, white feathers? You wanted your world title shot with Wilder for 3 years. You never got it. It was mandatory for me for 3 minutes. And you got your fight, didn't you, coward? Tyson Fury's a coward. He don't want to fight Dillian Whyte. But all of a sudden it's on your toes and you've gone silent, you little bitch. Come out! Come out of hiding, white feathers! Come and get it. You get a good idea, you wanted a bit of free money, didn't you, Dosser? But now you get 8 million, which is 7.5 million too much for you, you old Dosser. Come on and say something, bum.
Also on social media, Fury has compared, and you can see here this graphic, Wizard of Oz, putting different fighters, Whyte, Joshua, Eddie Hearn, their promoter, and Alexander Usyk, onto some Wizard of Oz characters. He says, it's this lot versus me. Such a funny time for me. They lost it at the last minute. And that's referring to the step aside that was potentially going to happen and fell over at the last minute. Both sides are blaming each other. You've got Fury's side, Frank Warren saying that Joshua asked for another $5 million. Eddie Hearn saying that Tyson Fury didn't want to fight Alexander Usyk. Filip Hrgovic may be getting closer to his IBF Final Eliminator opponent after another couple of names have turned down the opportunity and through injury. So Dan Rafael reporting Murat Gassiev, Andy Ruiz Jr. both passed on a chance to negotiate an IBF heavyweight title eliminator with hashtag or inverted commas the boogeyman Filip Hrgovic. That makes 7 IBF ranked heavies to pass so far. Next on the clock when letter issued will be Demsey, McKean and Zhang, Zhilei. So Murat Gassiev, we knew he was injured, pulled out of a fight recently. Andy Ruiz Jr. has been speaking about a knee injury for a number of months and rehabbing it. So, you know, I kind of expected that was going to happen. But also for Ruiz, the money may not have been there that he sort of would have wanted, a la sort of similar to Joseph Parker. Saw elbows Parker, who turned it down, but then said he'd be ready for a fight in March. But in terms of Demsey McKean, he's not going to take that because McKean actually has a fight scheduled at the moment, so he's probably unavailable to take it, which would mean Zhang Zhilei, who's the only guy who's really publicly said he wants the fight, he'll take the eliminator if it gets to him. It looks like that will finally happen, that it's gonna get to him and he'll say yes and a fight should be made. Well, let's hope so. And remembering both Hrgovic and Zhang have been fighting with Matchroom in the United States on DAZN cards. So those two guys already been facing off on different cards in the United States for DAZN, so it makes sense that this would be made and probably held in the United States, but we shall see. Hopefully something happens there. Otto Varling is returning to the ring, set to face Kamil Sokolowski in a 6-rounder, which is going to be on the Eubank and Williams undercard. Here's his video clip and then a few thoughts.
I'm happy to announce that I'm going to be fighting next Saturday in Cardiff, Wales. It's on February 5th. I'm going to be fighting Kamil Sokolowski from Poland. The fight is going to be an off-TV fight, just to get a fight again, because I've been out for a year now. But it'll be good to get a fight and get off some of the ring rust, and then hopefully soon we get a bigger fight. I'm not sure that my fight is going to be shown anywhere, to be honest, but the main card is going to be shown on Sky Sports. Is Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams, and then Clarissa Shields is also fighting. So we'll see what happens, but we're going to Wales today, and I'm ready for the fight, and I'm just happy to be fighting again. So I guess I'll see you guys soon.
So it's not great for Otto Varling at this stage of his career. You'd hope that he wouldn't have to dip down, but I understand it. He's been out of the ring a year. He was due to fight Dillian Whyte. Whyte pulled out, and obviously he's kind of been sort of scrambling around since, and there haven't been too many options. So at least he's getting some activity back in the ring, blow some rust off, and hopefully into a bigger and better fight next. But this will be a good barometer, I think, just in general, because a lot of people, rate Sokolowski and the effort that he puts in. We've seen some prospects struggle with him in recent times, but there are guys who are at a certain level that are just going to outclass Sokolowski, and this will be that sort of fight, I believe. We'll see, that there are levels, but we knew that already, but I think this will be another sort of demonstration of that. But of Varling, he's in the United Kingdom at the moment, saying just had a good workout here in Cardiff, feeling sharp and ready for the fight Saturday. Also great to see Joe Cordin in the gym. They're in the United Kingdom and with his trainer Joey Gamache and Cordina on the right. And just rounding up this heavyweight news and notes mashup video. So Joey Dawejko facing Stephen Shaw this past weekend. Post on social media, and this sort of typifies that whole, boxing's a really tough sport, and especially if you're operating at any real level, and if you're a sought after journeyman or gatekeeper, it's not easy. So Joey Dawejko, after his loss, saying, boxing is a very hard way to make an easy buck. At 10 years old, I fell in love with the sport, traveled all over, seen things in this world that if I wasn't boxing, I would never witnessed. I turned pro at the age of 19, and immediately that's when I fell out of love with boxing. The business side of the sport is the worst thing to deal with. Fortunately, I've made some good money from boxing, and me and my family live a pretty comfortable life. Who knows where I would have been if it wasn't for boxing. This is absolutely not a retirement speech, but it is a speech that I feel heavily about, to think about. What I want most in my life: 35 pro fights, traveling the world, meeting great people, and being part of the best sport in the world. Not sure I want to continue doing this, but I'm also not sure if I want to leave the biggest part of my life for the past 22 years. It's time to make a healthy decision. I want to thank everyone for your continued support throughout the years, and to all of the people that like to hate, I still have hands. Thank you, everyone. Boxing certainly is a tough sport to earn a crust. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.